What would your reaction be if a teenager covered in blood ran into a bakery where you work asking for help? Probably fear and shock. Thanks to the quick reaction of these brave shop sellers, 12-year-old Nikita survived. In a couple of hours, the population of 22,000 people of the small Russian city of Mendeleevsk got to know about the horrifying details of a brutal murder. They got to know about everything this small boy had been through.
Hello everyone and welcome back into the room where even walls have ears. Thank you very much for clicking on this video, and I hope you will enjoy this video as well. Unfortunately, even in 2023, there are a lot of cases of domestic violence. Women, children, and even men are getting abused every single day. Some of them have happy endings, whereas others don't. And today's story is about one of them. It's about how a head of a family became an executioner of his own family. This story might be compared to the triple murder in Bishkek. By the way, I've already covered that story in one of my previous videos, so I will leave the link in the description or somewhere here. They are similar because both are about the treachery of a family member. So if you are interested in the murder that happened in one of the provincial cities of Russia called Mendeleevsk, stay tuned. And we are starting with getting to know about the characters of this story.
41-year-old Aynur Kharisov got married to Angelina Basharova and had a 2-year-old son. Even though they were married, they didn't live together for a while. According to the details, the main reason for that was the alcoholism problems of Aynur. This was probably genetic since his father was suffering from the same ailment. Also, Aynur was addicted to gambling, so he was spending a lot of money on that. He owed about 200,000 rubles. He was arrested 3 times. One time he stabbed his mother-in-law, but he spent only 1 year in jail. He was drinking so much that his wife stopped letting him in, so once he crashed the window of her car. Even so, they continued talking and she let him see his son. It is worth mentioning that this was his second marriage and he had other children, including a 10-year-old son with disabilities from another woman. As for Angelina Basharova, there isn't much information about her. It is known that the marriage with Aynur was also the second one for her. She was already married before and had 2 sons from that marriage, 19-year-old Kirill and 12-year-old Nikita. Angelina was a loving mother. According to some sources, she used to work in school number 3, but the authorities of the very school denied all information about that. It was not confirmed that the woman worked in the Social Security department either. In an interview with her friend, she said that she was shocked when she found out that Angelina got married to Aynur. She said that, "I was shocked when she met her second husband. I saw a photo of her on Vkontakte with a child and thought that she had given birth. Then I met her in the city. She then lost a lot of weight. It even seemed like she was getting sick. And then I saw the child. As for the new husband, I still don't understand why she liked him. It is obvious that he's some kind of bandit. She used to tell me I never had luck with men, but these were just youthful conversations." 19-year-old Kirill was an attractive young man whose future was brutally ended by his stepfather. He had an active lifestyle. He rode a bicycle, went swimming, was an activist, and took part in the Politsavod project. Kirill enjoyed watching videos dedicated to sports and building a healthy body.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find much information about the third victim of this story, the 2-year-old son of Angelina. It is only known that he was born in 2017. In some photos posted by Angelina on her social media platforms, she's holding her son and stands next to Aynur. In the description to those photos, she used to write, "Loving and happy family." Let's restore the chronology of events step by step.
Everything happened the night between the 2nd and the 3rd of December 2019. Aynur came to the house of the victim without an invitation. At first, everything was fine, but after a while, Aynur found a bottle of alcohol and started drinking. At some point, he took his wife's phone and began reading her messages. Among the recipients of the messages, he found some messages belonging to one of Basharova's neighbors. Suspecting that his wife was cheating on him, Kharisov began asking unpleasant questions. She allegedly made it clear that there was no reason for jealousy, but admitted that her feelings for her husband had cooled. She no longer loved him. Going wild with jealousy, the defendant began to search the pockets of his future victim's coat, and to his surprise, he found his rival's passport in one of them. Kharisov didn't believe his wife's explanation that the neighbor asked her to get the paper from the tax office. After drinking a glass of vodka in one gulp, he took up the knife. It was already past midnight. The children were asleep. Kharisov entered the hall where his wife was at the moment and began to stab her with a knife. Doctors would later count at least 25 stab wounds on the victim's body. When the man calmly and consistently struck, the youngest son, who was sleeping next to her, woke up from the mother's screams. The defendant could no longer stop. The 2-year-old child of Kharisov and Basharova, who was trying to protect his mother, also fell under the hot hand. Later, 34 stab wounds were counted on the child's body.
The child's crying didn't stop and woke up the eldest son of Angelina, Kirill. After seeing all the bloody picture that was happening there, he tried to strangle his stepfather.
Despite the seemingly physical superiority of Kirill, whose height was 195 centimeters, he was unarmed and powerless in front of Kharisov, a head shorter, and barely woke up. His stepfather, as if in a bloody frenzy, began to beat him with a knife. It took only one step to kill Kirill. Kharisov stabbed him in his heart. Realizing that the victims were dead, he retreated and threw the knife into the sink. But then, another son of Basharova, 12-year-old Nikita, came out of the bedroom. Without thinking twice, the stepfather grabbed another knife in the kitchen and attacked his stepson. Nikita ran back to his room and was already there on the bed trying to protect himself. Later, the child said that while Kharisov was slowly cutting him with a knife, he said, "Sleep." Believing that another of his victims was dead, the defendant went to the bathroom, left the knife there, washed himself, collected all the bunches of keys, and left the apartment, locking it.
After the bloody massacre, Kharisov left the apartment, threw the keys into the bushes, and went to the nearest convenience store for cigarettes. After that, he got into the car, offered the driver 1,000 rubles, and asked to take him to another city, Yelabuga. On the way, the driver noticed that the hands of the passenger were shaking heavily.
At the same time, a miracle happened. 12-year-old Nikita survived. Later during the trial, Nikita said that he heard his deceased mother screaming, "Help, help, don't you think of our child?" He left his room to find out what was happening when came across his stepfather in the corridor. Aynur stabbed Nikita twice and said, "Go to sleep. If you try to run, I will punish you." Thus Nikita went back to his room, covered his body with a blanket, and waited till the stepfather left the apartment. The boy broke the window and jumped through it into the street. In a state of shock, without clothes, with wounds and cuts from glass from which blood was dripping, he ran to the nearest 24-hour bakery, Dobropek. There the child was met by employees to whom he briefly told what had happened. "My stepfather stabbed my mother and brothers. He was only in his underwear. At first no one met him. After calling for help, he headed to the kitchen where employees were baking." Seconds later, you can see that shocked workers of the bakery appeared on CCTV recordings with Nikita and didn't know what to do. The security of the bakery called the police and ambulance, and they covered the poor child with blankets till the help arrived. Fortunately, Nikita was brought to the hospital just in time and he got all the necessary treatment and recuperated very soon.
The weird thing is that after being interviewed by the press, the employees of the very bakery were fined 5,000 rubles, and it's not clear why. That's why they refused to be interviewed once again.
After a couple of hours having sawed through the lock on the front door with a grinder, police saw a terrible picture. The floor and walls of the apartment were covered in blood. At the door to the hall lay the corpse of a woman. Inside was the body of a young man. The most painful is that sounds could be heard from the depths of the room. A 2-year-old boy was still showing signs of life. He was rushed to the hospital, but the doctors were powerless. The child died a few hours later. There was so much blood in the apartment that it was impossible to collect it with rags. Thus, 3 people were killed that night.
As I've mentioned before, the motive of the murder is jealousy. Later during the investigation, a letter written by Aynur and full of grammatical mistakes was found on the place. He was writing that,
"This is the person with whom she cheated and is still cheating on me. I asked her to come back to me and I said I'll forgive you, just be with me. She refused. I can't live without her. Please forgive me. I'd rather be in the next world with her." Seems like he wanted to end his life too, but was caught by the police just in time. He was caught by police in his workplace when he was sleeping. The owner of the place called the police after hearing from the suspect that he killed his wife and her lover. He didn't believe Aynur since the latter was drunk, but decided to call the police just in case. According to sources, the man didn't deny guilt. He immediately said that he had killed his wife, son, and stepson, but he didn't remember that he tried to kill his second stepson. At the same time, he allegedly stated that he only regretted that he had stabbed to death the small child he shared with Basharova, and already at the police department, he added that he killed everyone in order to take them with him.
The trial took place right after the investigation. Unfortunately, due to the lockdown during coronavirus, this session was a closed one. The relatives of the victims were present at the session, whereas the mother of the suspect refused to be there, stating that son does not exist for me anymore.
The mother of the victim revealed that Aynur is a grumpy and preserved person. He didn't like his stepchildren. Moreover, his oldest stepson Kirill had to step in for his mother every time his parents had a quarrel. She didn't understand why her daughter hadn't left him earlier before the horror happened. Basharova was mainly sharing details of her family life with her friends.
In the court, his lawyer was trying to protect Aynur and called to see the defendant as a human being in need of help. Also, the lawyer assured that Aynur was very susceptible and sensitive to the cold feelings of his beloved woman that arose destructive jealousy in him.
At least he was sorry for murdering 3 people who were members of his family. He was sorry. The defendant himself was silent during the procedure. According to him, the 2-year-old boy tried to protect his mother to the last. He screamed, jumped, and looked pleadingly at his father. "Your Honor, my words here are empty. I won't say anything in my own defense. I'm very sorry and repentant of what I did. I would do everything to prevent this from happening," he said in the debate, and then in his last word, "I fully admit my guilt in what I did. I sincerely repent. I'm sorry. I understand that there is no forgiveness for the crime I committed, but I ask and will ask for forgiveness from the victims and everyone else. I apologize. Your Honor, please give me the opportunity to atone, and if I don't deserve it, then I ask that I be sentenced to death."
As for the judges, it didn't take too long, and in just 1 hour, they announced their final decision.
Aynur Kharisov was proclaimed sane after medical examination. He wasn't suffering from a mental illness, no one doubted it. Head injuries are not mental disorders, everyone has them. Kharisov served in the army, was smart, and wasn't registered as a psychiatrist. His promise of suicide was only demonstrative, so he was 100% responsible for everything he had done to his family. Almost 90 stabbing wounds were found on the bodies of all 3 victims. It tells about the brutality of the murder. Even though he was sorry for what he had committed, nothing will ever bring back them to life. Nikita lost his mother and brothers and now is living with his biological father. He is traumatized for the rest of his life. Aynur Kharisov was sentenced to life imprisonment, and a lot of netizens us are not satisfied with the final verdict of the court. A lot of people say that he only deserves to be killed, blood for blood.
This is pretty much everything I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much if you watched this video till the very end. What do you think about the story? If you want to share your own opinion, feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below. Also, if you like this video and you like the content that I create, please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If possible, share this video with your friends and people you know so more people will be aware of this story. And as always, take care of yourselves and see you next time.